Hey, I'm Diana and this is Story Artist, a show that will not only help you tell stories that will change the world, but also create a lifestyle around those stories that is sustainable, creative, and fulfilling. Let's be artists who impact society by both their work and their lifestyle. Ready to start the adventure of your lifetime? You're looking for your next amazing, exciting read. The book cover looks great. The description reads really interesting, so what do? You jump inside the Look Inside feature and start reading the first few pages. And this is where the trouble starts. Maybe the first 1 or 2 pages really don't grip you, so what do? You just abandon the book and go look for the next one. Or even worse, you buy this book because you kind of like the first few pages, but then by page 10 or 15, it still doesn't grip you, so you lose interest and you abandon the book. What does it mean for the author of the book? It means if he has a bad read-through, he loses all his fans. And I recently read the book from David Gaughran, Strangers to Superfans, and I really recommend this book. And what he says in the book is, Kobo released some very interesting figures some time ago showing that 40% was actually a really good read-through rate. And 50% was something really considered especially good, exceptional. And he argues that this can be attributed to the rise of ebook, the fact that the readers are holding a device to hundreds of other options, and that you have like a link to the store where there are a million more books. So the choice is really abundant, and you have a lot of concurrence. What do you do? And he says fewer than half of the books tested were finished by a majority of readers. This is what the New York Times notes in the profile on Jelly Books. And he concludes, the sad truth is most readers won't finish your book. But how can we go about it? What can we do against it? How can we take the reader on a journey that he really finishes? And I think the most important thing for that are your first few pages. The first 15 or 20 pages are what decides about the fate of your book and the fate of your author career, because if your readers finish your book, of course you have to be really good about this book, so the middle has to shine, the ending has to shine, but first you have to take your readers through this first 15 or 20 books so that they actually keep on reading and that they're invested into the story. And these pages can decide about the fate of your author career. So how can we make those pages shine? Let's look at some ways. So Margaret Atwood puts it this way: the first pages of the book are like the entryway to your book. It's like a door you take your readers through and to a world that you show them. And there are several things you can do to make this door and this entryway shine and introduce your reader to your story and to your book in a way that will keep them invested. So, the first one is, and you probably know this, but let me say this again, jump straight into the action. Avoid lengthy exposition things. Avoid everything that is not in the story straight away. You have to jump right into the action, right into something really important happening, because when you do this, the readers are excited and they want to read on. The next thing is try to place hints to the theme, but don't build in the theme like really big just yet. Just place hints. How do you do that? You place hints in by adapting your style, for example, whether it's serious or it's comic or what it talks about. Like if you mention the things, a word like fate, very often it might mean that you're talking about things like fate, or can we make a decision, or is fate something that decides about our lives? So minor things that you put in there are really important, and through your voice, of course. So the way you speak, maybe it's if you write like in the first person, you want to really get the voice of the character, and it also hints to the theme of the book. So just point your reader to slightly towards the direction where your novel is heading, to show them if or to let him know if he is interested in this particular theme and in the particular direction your book is developing to. The next one is the characteristic moment, and this is a moment where you first introduce your character, your main character, or your secondary characters, but now we're talking about the main one, to the reader. And this is a really important moment, because what you want to get right on this one is that you want to make your your main character, straight away likable. This is so important, guys. He doesn't have to be good or admirable, or people don't have to fall in love with him, but he has to have something that is sympathetic to the reader. Why? Because they have to care about him straight away. Let's say you put your main character in a situation like, will he save the world, or will he save his family? Yes, those are things we can identify with, which is really important as well. So put in stuff that people can identify with, but also, why should they even care about this person? Bring in something that makes the reader like him straight away. And one of those things that I found are humor. If you bring in humor and make him humorous, and maybe have him take situations in a way people admire. Let's say it's a very difficult situation, something we would be afraid of, or something where we would be angry and flip out. He'll take this with humor, or he will be really like concentrated, and he will be really strict about how he behaves, and our reaction straight away is, oh wow, I'd love to do that as well. I'd love to react to this kind of situation the way he did. And we start to admire him, and we start to like him. So this is one of the techniques you can use. The next one is orientation. And this is really important. So you have to help your reader be oriented in the world you build. So avoid you should avoid putting in lengthy descriptions, because you want to be inside the action, but avoid putting in lots of names. For example, if you introduce your reader to a fantasy world or a futuristic world, don't introduce lots of names that people don't know, lots of just words that people don't know. Make sure that you introduce them one by one, and make them invested into the book first, before you throw this pile of world building onto them. Just let them see and glimpse the world, and know when they are, so which time and where they are. Is it future, past, present, which country, and so on. So that they are oriented, that they're not confused, but also don't throw this pile of words and names upon them. One of those is also mystery. I love if I read something where the author promises something to me, which is, and this is what Dan Brown says in his masterclass, I promise the reader that there are all these questions that I put into the exposition, into the first parts of my story, but I promise that I will answer those questions. I promise that if I set up something, I will deliver the payoff at some point. And these are the promises that you have to make, and you have to raise questions. You have to raise mystery to the reader. Okay, why is this happening? How could this be? This is impossible. How could that be? So when they read, they actually want those questions answered. Promise the reader an enticing, exciting ride once they start reading your novel. Another one is style. So give them a glimpse of your style, and especially of the atmosphere of the whole book, and try to also hit the atmosphere of your genre. So is it romance? Is it dystopia? Is it fantasy? The atmosphere is different from genre to genre, so try to adapt your style to the genre, and let the readers know, okay, this is the genre, and when they are readers that like this genre, they at once will feel at home with your style and in your book, because of the words you choose and because of the atmosphere you create. And the last one is cliffhangers, and this is actually what Errol Stein recommends. Leave them hanging. Leave your readers hanging, especially in the first chapter, in the first few pages, or when you end your first chapter. Leave them hanging so that they want to know, oh wow, I need to read the second chapter in order to know what happens. This is how you want to end your first chapter. And ideally, try to end every chapter this way, but don't use this technique too much or too strongly. But when it comes to the first one, the first pages, the first chapter, the entryway to your novel, you really want to leave them hanging so that they read on, that they buy this book, and that they start reading the book, so that you beat this horrible 60% mark of people not reading the book. So I hope you enjoyed it and we can beat this 60% together. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, rate the show if you're listening to it on audio, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my podcast, and let me know what you liked about it.